Talking with the Experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name is Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcast streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Angela Heise. And Angela is a trainer and coach and has spent her whole life dedicated to understanding the why behind human behaviour, offering insight and practical tools to help her corporate and private clients improve their lives by better understanding themselves and others. Angela helps people develop greater strengths in the areas of self-leadership and leadership, social, cultural and emotional intelligence, competencies, as well as creativity and innovation. Her emotional productivity program and global village skills trainings provides crucial information and fundamental skills her clients often call life-changing. Welcome, Angela, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Rose, for having me. It's wonderful to see you.
And to you. Yes, we've chatted a little bit previously about your emotional productivity. Can you just explain to our audience, please, what that is?
Well, generally, when you talk about emotions, they're either positive or negative. And then we are at the mercy of the negative emotions. And, somebody makes us feel something, and then we don't know what to do with it. And we become really unproductive. Productive emotional productivity means I recognize that there's an emotion I may not like, and I call that pleasant or unpleasant rather than negative. And I recognize that there's an intent behind this emotion. It's a messenger. It wants to tell me something. And when I turn that message on, then I can actually say, okay, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, and this is how I'm going to turn it into something productive.
Yeah. It's quite sometimes it's hard when you're feeling those unpleasant emotions and turning them into something pleasant, especially if it's, you've had an unpleasant experience with a manager, supervisor, or a peer, or, someone in the workplace, or a customer even. So what can people use to turn those unpleasant feelings into a pleasant feeling?
Well, first of all, it's the recognition that you're feeling a certain way. A lot of people don't even know how they're feeling. I mean, I don't know how many people you say, hi, how are you feeling? Oh, how are you? And they go, fine. And fine is generally, don't talk to me. I don't really want to feel what I'm feeling. And it actually stands for, that's my acronym, fucked up, irrational, neurotic, emotionally unavailable. The smile that doesn't reach the eyes, where you're just going, I'm fine. Let's not talk about it. So instead, I'm not saying go and divulge your deepest, darkest secrets and going, I'm feeling absolutely desperate right now. But it's about saying, you know what, I'm struggling, or and it's not. It's not too bad. Not too bad is almost as useless as fine. But it's the ability to say, I'm really frustrated right now. I'm feeling really confused, and then saying, okay, what am I going to do with that? And the very simple way of saying is what is my confusion? What's my frustration about? And you can bring that back to a need. So if I'm confused because I need some clarity about something, well, then I can actually do something. I can say, okay, I need to have that conversation with this person to clarify that. Or I need to actually speak up and say, this doesn't make any sense to me. Or if I'm frustrated, it may be I need to have some progress here. And then, so what can I do to make that happen? So instead of going, oh, this is just the way it is, or again, somebody says, they make me feel. Nobody can make us feel anything. That's always our choice. How we react and how we respond is always up to you. And that's a sense of responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's probably ingrained. You make me feel this way. For whatever reason, it just seems to be words that we use on a daily basis, and it's not really because someone's made you feel that way. You've chosen to feel that way, and I agree with you. It is a choice, but we use the word "you've made me feel that way." So how can we change that and flip it around?
It's being aware of it, because it's everywhere. If you listen to music, the way you make me feel like, it's all over the place. And when people say it to us, you make me feel really angry, or you make me angry. Instead of reacting, it's about saying, really? And if it comes out of our own mouth, it takes a level of self-awareness. I mean, because we have what comes out of our mouth is generally not the stuff that we're conscious of. We just say things and then maybe we take it back. It's like sending an email and 10 minutes later we go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sent that.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
And it's about really saying, let me rephrase that. It's not that you're not making me angry. I feel angry right now. And the reason for that is this. And I know it sounds really simplistic, but it is really that way. It's about taking ownership of what's going on for me.
Okay, so I know you are posting things on Facebook at the moment. I know last year you were posting something, a challenge every week about different types of emotions, or every month. I can't remember now, but it was really quite interesting. And then now you're doing other things about emotions and feelings. Can you just explain, what the reasoning is behind that, and some of the things that you've covered so far this year?
Yeah. So last year I did #52 emotions, and we went through all of the different, not all of them because there are thousands of emotions, but I picked 52 emotions that we experience on a regular basis. And I used emotions that are supposedly negative, like anger, like hopelessness, self-pity, things like that. And what it was about recognizing what the intent is and how you can turn it into a productive power. This year, I'm doing #52 needs. So as I said before, if you know how you're feeling and you know what the need is about, that's being fulfilled or not fulfilled, because the emotion is unpleasant, means my need is not being fulfilled, then you can actually have a really good foundation for moving forward. So this year, I started off with self-care. Because if you don't know how to self-care, then you don't know that's really hard to feel what fulfilling a need feels like. So if I'm running on empty, if I don't get enough sleep, not enough food, if I don't have enough alone time because I need to be that because I'm an introvert, or if you eat foods just to, get through the day and it doesn't really nurture your body. What it does, it literally turns the body off. We stop feeling what's going on. And our body is a beautiful feedback system. It lets us know when something's working for us or not. And then when it starts screaming louder, we get into dis-ease. So self-care was the first one. We've been looking at inspiration. This week is all about hope. Last week was about choice, because a lot of people come from, I have to, I must, I ought to, I should. And I invited people to say, okay, try it out. What happens when you change, I have to go to work, to, I choose to go to work? How does that feel?
Yeah, there's, was it could, should, and would, those three things. So how do you enable or coach or train business owners and give them the tools that they can create healthy relationships within the workplace?
Well, I've got programs and I've got tools that I've identified over the years. I've been coaching for 25 years, and I've been on the path of self-development for over 40, which means I only actually started working with people 15 years after I started working on myself, because I didn't want to be one of those people who sat in front of somebody and said, oh, you've got that problem, I've got that too. And I'm always work in progress. I'm not saying that I'm a finished product, by no means, but at least I know what it means to go through that process of self-development. So I've created a whole toolkit of basic foundational skills that work in leadership and that work in everyday life. And so I've got programs that I walk people through, and depending on where they come from and what kind of work they've done before, I customize the program so that people, and because it's so important to me, people fulfill their needs when they work with me.
Yeah. So can you just, give some basic information about what the programs include?
Well, there are training programs that I either do interactively online, or they're self-paced programs that I love mixing with coaching sessions. So people go and have do a module, and then they come back and we discuss the module and whatever comes up for them in that context, or whatever has triggered them into, or that reminds me of, or actually I have a situation at work that I would really need some help with, and then I become the bouncing board, I just support people in by asking questions. But I'm not one of those coaches, I'll be honest with you. I know that coaches who just ask questions, and they ask questions and ask questions. I always say, if somebody doesn't know how to get out of a room, just showing them the key in the darkness and hoping that they will find it themselves may not actually work. You might actually have to put the key in the lock. So it depends on where the person is at. But I love working with people and helping them find the tools so that they can get out of the room and then they can keep going without me.
Yeah. So, we all know that we're all emotional creatures in some form, or but how can we better learn to control our emotions? Either be more open or be less open, depending on the situation.
Okay. First of all, if you don't mind, we don't really control our emotions. I mean, if you put yourself into control, that's almost, you're contracting the muscles, you're getting really tight, you might even tense your jaw. So controlling emotions generally for me means somebody is pushing them down. So I generally say we've got a willpower vat that is empty in the morning, and then we have an internal toxin vat the willpower vat is full and the toxin vat is empty. And as we go through the day, and as we are fine, not too bad, everything's okay, and we push down all of these emotions, what happens is the willpower goes down. But at the same time, all these suppressed emotions, all the controlled emotions, fill that toxin vat and it comes up. And then it comes a place where that willpower vat is at a level where it can't hold emotions anymore, and the toxin vat is full. And then what happens is generally people either explode or they completely withdraw. Neither of that is a really great choice. So what I do is that I invite people to actually process the emotions. And I'm not talking about a therapy sessions or sitting on a mountaintop for the next 40 minutes and, umming. I'm talking simply about the fact of saying, again, this is how I feel right now. This is what's not working. And then expressing that in some way, shape, or form. It could, and please, not sending an email to the person who's triggered that. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about finding somebody you trust and saying, it really sucks right now. And often, again, this is also part of my training, it's teaching people not to fix. It's just about listening and just being there for the person. And when we are the person who's venting, or what I call plumbing, poor little old me, it's about saying, please just listen. I don't need any advice right now. I just need to get it out of my system. We generally don't have these conversations with people. We don't say to people, okay, this is my emotional need right now. Would you be willing to just be there for me? Or I really need some advice right now. Would you be willing to give me some? And please be honest. Don't just go, yeah, it's going to be okay. And having these conversations really helps us be more authentic, express our emotions. And instead of emptying the willpower vat and filling up the toxin vat really quickly, we can actually manage those quite well.
Yeah, I guess what I used was, controlling our emotions is, I guess it's what we're taught. We're taught that as children, control yourself. Don't show stuff. Don't ask for questions. Don't be this. Don't be that. So yeah, I guess what you're saying is the opposite of what we're taught as children.
But it's not, you see, when children express their emotions, they don't have a filter. They roll around in the aisle of the supermarket screaming, That would be really weird for a 40-year-old executive to do, right? So what we do is we teach children to push that down because it's inappropriate. So emotional expression is often a question of culture. But what we can do is we can actually teach children, for example, to do that in such a way that it's being honest and authentic. But instead what we do is, as you said, especially boys, you're a big boy, big boys don't cry. Come on, hold it together. And girls increasingly get the same message, because we just don't have time for emotions. But if we take a moment and we acknowledge that. And I don't teach children, but I'd say we can make a difference at that age already. There's a big difference between sitting in front of a child and saying, come on, pull yourself together, it's not that bad, and saying, that must really hurt. My experience is then the child will say, yes, it does. And then off they go and they play again because they just wanted the acknowledgement. And the same thing happens for us as adults. If somebody says to us, oh, come on, it's not really that bad, or the fix it, oh, you have a headache, or let's go and let's have a glass of wine and let's go shopping, or let's do, whatever it might be. Or my favorite ones, when's the last time you've had a glass of water? Or I know somebody who used to have headaches and now they have a really bad brain tumor. When's the last time you've seen your doctor? We don't really address when somebody comes to us and says, I feel awful. We don't really say, I hear you.
No,
we say, let me fix it.
Yeah, I guess we taught to be fix-its, not listeners. We're not taught to listen. We just taught to fix, because our parents just, as you said, most times would say, just pull yourself together, get on with it. If you've got a mental health problem, get over it, or you've had some traumatic experience, just get over it.
Yeah.
We're taught that. We're told it so much that, it becomes part of who we are. But you're right, no one actually takes the time to listen anymore unless you go and pay for a therapist.
Yeah. And the thing is also at work, we're supposed to leave part of us at home. I can't tell you how many people I have worked with who said, oh, if you just knew me at home, I'm a totally different person. And I generally go, why would you do that? Why would you leave part of yourself at home? Again, I'm not saying that you share your deepest, darkest secrets and all your daily dramas with your coworkers or with your team. But it's about a level of authenticity that says, there's something going on in my life right now. And maybe I need to actually take some time to address that instead of just pushing it aside and keeping going. And my experience is when people actually learn to express that, and there are tools, and I can't do that in this short period of time, but there are tools that create a safe environment where people actually feel appreciated without having to share themselves fully and completely, and having that sense of, I'm going to lose authority if I do that. When people do that, it creates trust. It creates a really beautiful team culture. People become much more responsible. They start really owning what's going on for them. They don't blame. Nobody goes into, you make me. They also say, you know what, I really need to take some time to process that. I can't turn on the creativity on tap at the moment. So I'm just going to go for a walk instead of pushing through and then taking it out on people at home because there's just so much stress built up. People become much more fulfilled. And again, you as a leader and in a team, you just become so much more cooperative, productive, and fulfilled. Yeah.
And that's the kind of culture we should be promoting in the workplace forever. I mean, it's so difficult that sometimes you just can't leave the stuff at home that you need to bring it with you because, it's part of who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. And I find that the employers who really and the leaders who really get this, they will not sit there and say, well, I've hired you from between 8:30 and 5 o'clock and put that aside and do that now. They go, I know you're not working those hours in the first place because with all the connectivity we've got, how many times do you check your email at 10 o'clock at night? How many times do we go and do something no matter what the time is, even though it's not regular working hours? So enlightened bosses will say, okay, you do what you need to take care of yourself because I know you will make up for this. I know you're responsible enough to handle this so that we meet deadlines, so that we communicate effectively. So they know that we are the adult who can handle their needs.
Yeah. And it's in the workplace, it's really important that you have a leader, manager, supervisor who can help you process those emotions if you're having some issues with, a personal issue or with another team member. They should have the ability to, listen to your concerns and help you manage them.
Yeah. And the key word, as you said, is help them manage, not fix them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people then go in and saying, thank you for sharing this with me. And then they go off and talk to the person in question. And that's almost like mommy or daddy are fixing the problem for a child that can't do it for themselves. Whereas when it's the coaching approach, when it's like, okay, tell me more about that. And have you given this a go? And what are you doing? And, there are all sorts of different ways in which to empower a person to then go and handle it themselves. So that's the difference between giving somebody a fish and teaching them how to fish.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So if you got any wise words, Angela, to people who may need to either be empowered or to empower?
Okay, there are so many different environments in which to empower.
Okay, so say you've got a leader who, needs some advice perhaps on how to make their staff feel more empowered.
Okay, and there we go. You can't make somebody feel empowered.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
See how it slips in. It does. It does. So how can you empower your team? Okay, well, first of all, recognize that they're adults and that they can handle their own needs. Ask more questions. And trust that they're competent. That's what you handle them for. That's what you hired them for. So when you empower somebody, you actually. Okay, so when you empower somebody, you trust that they can do their job. So often people go into micromanagement mode. And it's about saying, do I really have to do this right now? Is the person competent, or do I just think that I would do a better job because I'm used to doing it? So it's about empowering by saying, I know you will make a mistake. I will support you in managing that, but I don't expect you to be perfect. So there's a learning process involved. We're guiding people into competence.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess on the other foot then, how can staff feel more empowered?
How can they feel more empowered is by going, if they have an issue, and it's about first of all, it's taking a small risk, but not without consulting with the people around them. It's about discussing them, but not asking for solutions and fix it and do it. And again, when there is an issue of some sort, don't go to your boss or to the person and saying, I have a problem. Go and say, I have a problem and this is my suggestion. I've already thought about it and this is the way I think I could solve it. And of course, there are the situations where they may not have any idea how to solve it, but then it's about being honest and saying, I have no idea how to deal with this at the moment. But don't go in with the expectation that the person, the boss, the team leader, the colleague, whoever, is going to do that for you, but going with the intent of getting some suggestion and then being responsible for taking care of it themselves. A lot of people give up their responsibility. We live in we call it the nanny state, but it's also very prevalent in offices, in any kind of company, because it's just so much easier to do something on behalf of somebody else rather than show them how to do it. So it's really important that people say, I just want your suggestion. I would like to handle this myself, rather than give up the responsibility.
Yeah, it's and sometimes it's really hard not to, to say those words, because you're frightened. Someone might judge you, or they might just, take it off your hands anyway.
Yeah, but it's the honesty. It's about being able to say that and say, I really acknowledge that it would be much easier if you did this for me, but I'd really like to learn how to do this myself. So if you would give me some suggestions on how to do that, I would really be appreciative. But often people go in and say, blah, here it is. And then as a team leader or as a boss, I would say, ask the following questions. Are you just venting or plumbing? Or is this a constructive conversation about finding a solution?
Yeah, I think these are skills that we should be teaching our children from an early age.
Yes.
And I think the society would be a lot better off.
Yeah. We need to teach people how to think, not what to think.
That's it. Exactly. All right, Angela, thank you so much for your time today. I'm sure that we've learnt a lot. I know I have. Don't use the word make, because no one can make me. I need to scrub that word out of my vocabulary.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Rose.
All right, Angela. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.